United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Marks, if you would lead us in an invocation.
Yes, if you feel so moved to join us, we will say a quick prayer. Well, Father, we thank you for not only the opportunity to come here today to do the work of the people, but for an opportunity to glorify you. And we simply ask that what we do here glorifies both you and helps the people of this county. And in your name we pray. Amen. All right.
We'll go right into roll call. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Webster. Here. Commissioner Holzhausen. Commissioner McMaster.
Here.
Commissioner Garber. Here. Commissioner Marks.
Here.
Commissioner Plowman.
Here.
Chairman Root.
Here. Our members are present. Everybody has seen the agenda. We will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
A motion, support, Commissioner Webster. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The agenda is approved. Move to approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from January 16, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting.
I make that motion.
I have a motion and a support. Discussion on these minutes. Discrepancies. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Minutes are approved. We'll turn to Commissioner Plowman for approval of the bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to approve the invoice edit reports dated 1/23/2020, 1/27, 1/30, 1/30, 2/6/26, that total $6,050,397.80. Also, wire transfers, ACHs, and EFTs for a grand total of $6,269,770.33, and to authorize that warrants be drawn from the Treasury for sale.
All right, we have a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Support.
We have a support, Commissioner Webster. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Holzhausen.
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster.
Yes.
Commissioner Garber.
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman.
Yes.
Commissioner Webster.
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes. Bills are approved. At this time, we'll move to the opportunity for the public to address the board. I have no slips in front of me currently. If anyone is interested in speaking, they have 3 minutes to address the board. All right, we have none. At this point, we'll go into committee reports, but I'm going to start our committee reports actually with our Veteran Affairs Director. We all had some comments here yesterday, heard some things. We now have a letter in front of us. And we were also told that our chairman up there was removed for doing things that were without board approval and doing things that were underhanded, and that was not the case. The chairman did not want to be the chairman and actually nominated the current chairman to succeed him, so he was not removed. But I think there were some names and there were some individuals mentioned yesterday in a disparaging way, and when they weren't present to say anything, it was inappropriate. So the floor, the issue of the van that we continue to be haunted by, the floor is yours, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I hope after my presentation today it's put to bed and we're done with it. It was brought to my attention yesterday's meeting. There were a lot of comments brought up that are factually not true, and I'll cover each of those points in question. It was brought up that the DAV van was not ever willingly given to the county. That is not actually true. I asked the DAV fleet manager in Saginaw about the process once we knew that the Sarah Edmonds and her folks needed the van. It then went to the DAV Director of Transportation for the state. From there to the Saginaw VA Director. The VA Director contacted the National Utilization Officer, that's the VA Washington, D.C. They in turn contacted the Regional DAV office. State commander actually approved that transfer, and then the adjutant signed the title over to the county. And there's a whole paper trail, which was the exhibit that was presented, I think, 2 or 3 months before when the van came into question the first time, and which yesterday was shown to you all as proof that something illegal, unethical, or immoral was done. Again, not the case. Next question, or next point was, has to be signed by a DAV rep and the local chapter. That is not accurate. It has to be signed by the representative of either the donor organization for first right of refusal, and that's a federal law for that first right of refusal from the VA, or signed by the representative taking actual physical possession of the vehicle, which when all that process of turn-in was completed, Saginaw VA contacted me and said, hey, come pick up the vehicle. We're the ones that have the volunteer drivers. I said, great, we'll come up and pick it up. So I signed for it because I was the body on the ground to sign for the van. So that's why my name's on it. DAV not knowing the van was back in the county. That's actually not true. The state commander approved it, so the state knew. And then the regional office knew, as the regional adjutant signed the title over to the county. So the state knew. Why they didn't contact the local chapter, that's out of my wheelhouse. I can't explain that at all. State adjutant, for his part in not making that absolutely clear, no longer is a part of the DAV. This was insinuated he was either fired or terminated by his action. That is not true. He did resign due to personal and medical reasons, and I got that information this morning from his predecessor, who is in the seat now. Did not go through VA committee channels. The VA committee knew of the turn-in back in July of 2018 when I did a turn-in packet to them, notifying that the van had been or had reached our mileage turn-in point and had to be turned in. It actually didn't have to go through the committee because once we turned it in, it was no longer county property. It was VA property. So we actually we didn't own it. And what's an interesting question that should have been asked is, it sat up there for 10 months before I made a phone call to say, hey, I've got an idea for an entity where we want to give back to our community. Is this possible? And if it is, what's the process for it? But the question should have been, where or was the local DAV chapter during that time, if it was imperative of keeping your doors open? Where were they for 10 months? What did they do? Nothing. Chairman is no longer, and you just alluded to this, Mr. Chairman. Chairman is no longer chairman in part for not voting for him for another term because he had made some decisions that should have gone through the committee. This eludes that the DAV van was part of this reason for not voting. That is inaccurate. The chairman had served for 2 years and said it was time to pass the position. And actually, in reviewing our minutes, every January, it's time where we re-elect our officers by our bylaws and policies and procedures. And actually, the old chairman was nominated for a 3rd term. That vote ended in a tie. They then discussed it a bit more. The old chairman actually nominated the new chairman. A new vote was taken, and the current chairman was elected. For the record, the one vote that was abstained was the individual that was here yesterday. Can't answer why you would abstain from electing your own officer, but okay, I don't know. Rest of the service organizations have been talked to and are upset. This is not true. I have not received a phone call or an email at their displeasure that the local DAV chapter has either received or not received the van. So if they are, please call. I'll discuss with anybody a concern or a grievance that they may have. This is a big one. State and national commander are aware of the situation, and Shiawassee County will not be getting another DAV van. That is completely inaccurate, to a point. State commander does know because he approved the transfer. So of course he knows. He has talked to the national commander about the transfer. He in turn approved it. National commander knows. The fleet manager confirmed that this was also not true. We're not on any blacklist. We're not. We will get another van once our van either meets the mileage or maintenance requirements for turning. We've not been banned. And this was also verified by Mr. Howell. He is the VA National Utilization Officer out of Washington, D.C. I talked to him this afternoon. There is no higher authority than Mr. Howell for this program. And I'll go in just a minute of how the program is set up, because the DAV doesn't actually own the vans. So I'll make that a point. The grant passed as a state commander. That's inaccurate, as there was actually an independent donor that year that donated 6 vans to the DAV for the use of the, I got it here somewhere, Volunteer Transportation Network Program, which is the program that the DAV was contracted by the VA to provide transportation support for the nation for all the regional VA centers. So with that, that's the program. So it's not the DAV, it's the Volunteer Transportation Network. Excuse me. And also, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 directors ago, Mrs. Strain, who actually was the driving force in getting that van to the county. And through folks that I've talked to and some documentation in my office, she was the one that kind of moved that ball down the field for that. I have mentioned before that it's controlled by the DOD. I found out today that is not the case. It's all controlled by the VA through the Volunteer Transportation Network Program, and that's a federal program. And there's an MOU between the VA and the DAV, which the DAV is a partial owner of the vehicles, in so much that they are the contracted entity to provide the transportation at a national level. The VA has complete authority over the disposition of the DAV fleet, and the DAV actually enters the program under what's called the Columbia Trust Fund, and that's a federal fund at the federal level that they come into. And this is controlled by FMR, or Federal Management Regulation 102-36, Volunteer Services Policy Handbook, and the VHA Handbook 1620.02, and you want to look at the 2014 edition because that's the latest and greatest. 2009 will come up if you search or call. Most people have that one, but 14 is the latest and greatest. I alluded to that transportation network. This is a memorandum from the Secretary of Veterans Affairs from Washington, D.C., again signed by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, so we're talking national level, the VA. But in it, it says, authority is delegated to Department of Veterans Affairs healthcare facility directors to return donated vans to the donors when the vehicles are no longer serviceable or needed for use in the facility's volunteer transportation network. And then in speaking with Mr. Howell this afternoon, he sent me an email as well, and he said that the vehicle in which we discussed having been offered first right of refusal to the DAV, and that was at the regional level, then the DAV putting the vehicle into their name, then the vehicle being put into the county name, the Veterans Affairs Office by mutual DAV and County Veterans Office agreement via your local DMV went through the proper procedures for vehicle ownership and transferring vehicle title. So coming from the guy who makes the decisions, he actually writes the policy for the VA, said that we did nothing wrong, we're 100% legal with the transfer, nothing was done illegal. So coming from the horse himself, so to speak, what questions do the commissioners have about our DAV?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple questions. Maybe I'm confused, but so this van that was aged out, went off, and was given away, that we're talking about the subject. That's the older, small one, correct?
Correct.
we purchased, and I say we, the second van was purchased, the bigger one,
Correct.
and that was any DAV money used for that, or was that money out of our,
That was money from both the service millage and the relief fund, and that was per the legal review that we got done through our general counsel to make sure that we were legal and nothing was
Right.
done illegal.
Okay.
And that's why we pulled from both accounts, because that way we can service both wartime and peacetime veterans.
And it offered more accessibility, handicapped wheelchairs, there's several, I mean, there was the funding issue, and there's restriction issues, so opened it up.
Correct, with the
It was a
DAV.
better deal, it was bigger, etc.
Well, and also we can't, with the DAV van, we can't transport any veterans with mobility issues like wheelchairs, oxygen. With the county van, it has a lift, so now we can do that.
Okay, so we have the county van now, it's
Correct.
working out, we're providing more transportation. I know we got a good deal, I remember you pricing it out, obviously we didn't pay high end at a dealership.
Yep.
I remember that whole process. Those two individuals yesterday brought up this, about we will never be able to get another DAV van. Now, my question to you is, because we were able to afford this and we bought we put ourselves in a better situation, are we ever even gonna need to do another DAV van?
Yes, because we're in the government program, once that vehicle, the current DAV van, reaches either the mileage requirement for turn-in or mechanical, we will have to turn that back in under this Volunteer Transportation Network program. And so we'll turn it in, we'll get a new one. And I've confirmed that both from Mr. Howell at Washington level, all the way down to the fleet manager out of Saginaw. He is unaware of anybody making any deal or any regulation or rule that we've broken that we will not be getting another van. Once we turn the current van in, once it reaches those metrics, we will get another van. So we actually, if truth be told, we meet the mileage requirement for a third DAV van because we drive that much. We just had one of my volunteer drivers just got an award for most miles driven, 7,312 if I'm not mistaken, miles for the year, which is nuts. That's like a trip back and forth from New York to California. So
We are going above and beyond what other county agencies are doing.
I would have to get back to you because I can't speak for other transportation.
We have, on our own initiative, I mean, we've taken steps to,
Yes, and based upon our veteran population, yes, to that question. We are servicing.
and I'd like to remind the board, this all was an issue, if you remember 2-3 summers ago, we had the veterans hearings that, constituents were asking a bunch of questions, that the transportation issue was one of the issues that came out of there, that we had to do something, and clearly as a board, we did it, and we are providing services. So it just reinforces, correct me if I'm wrong, how completely,
Inaccurate.
yes, what we were told.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Plum?
I was around in 13, 11, 12, and 13, and starting in 12, our activities for our veterans was really picking up. And they'd have to have their own transportation to Saginaw or Ann Arbor area or medical reasons. And then the plan got put forth, and then a lot of people were concerned, and a lot of people got together, and that's how the van came about in 2013, and it's continued. Yeah, I mean, this isn't something that happened last week. I mean, we've had an ongoing transportation for quite some time.
Correct. Yep. And we've just taken the next step with the purchase of the county van to provide services to those veterans that are have mobility issues. So
So once again, to say that we are not
Generally,
serving the underserved or whatever, and we want to get to the homeless issue or other issues, on the transportation issue, clearly we're doing what needs to be done. We're getting the job done, I'm assuming.
absolutely. And to if I can change subjects just briefly, in the beginning of yesterday's meeting was also brought up the potential use of veteran relief funds for either a lease or building of a building. Mr. Shepherd is correct, that is illegal, but you already all know that. We would be using operational funds, so if there's any questions, or if the public has any questions about that, please come talk to me. I'll show you the numbers. I presented a budget review to the committee and to the commissioners. I can also show that to you because it's public record, so.
Could I have a little mic?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee now. I was talking about this apparently. The other reason I would like to answer your question a little further, the second van was also purchased to utilize, we could transfer more people. We had an issue with SATA charging us outrageous fees, and my concern was trying to lower that cost of the county. And at that time, when we did that, we said that if you guys watched the figures closely, you would see that figure coming down, and maybe possibly the millage could be knocked back a little bit, and it would benefit the county in a couple different ways. But I just wanted to further answer that question. So we can transfer people that have been, who wasn't allowed to transfer.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else for Mr. Reeves or Mr. Carruthers?
Mr. Chairman. Mike, I would like to thank you for being here and for once again addressing this issue that you, as you stated, have addressed before. And I would kind of like to apologize that you have to keep wasting your time that could probably be better spent serving the veterans that come into your office. And one of the gentlemen yesterday also stated that we might possibly ignore his application to be on the Veterans Board. And speaking for myself, yes, I would absolutely ignore that. So thank you very much for being here.
You're welcome, and my job is to provide the commissioners, because I ultimately work for you and my committee, but my job is to provide solution sets, not problems. So I will never bring the commissioners or the committee a problem. I need to find a new job then if that's what I'm doing. You all have enough issues within your districts. I don't need to be bringing in. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate it, and hopefully this puts it to bed, and we don't have to. We'll see you next month.
Yeah, you said it. I don't know.
No, hopefully it's over.
If you would pay per diem for Mr. Howell to come and speak, I'm sure we can get him from Washington DC, although he is a busy man.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think that we've already had Mr. Reeves do this twice, and I don't think that we need to give any further explanation. People are free to come and make public comment. We are also free to not put our county staff through another explanation when we've already done it. So I think for us, we kind of just need to also just let it go. I mean, we can't stop people from making comment, but we don't have to defend it every time when it has been so thoroughly defended now twice.
I think more of the point this time was the disparaging comments that were made
Yeah.
directed at the two individuals. Last time it was just the DAV ban, and I think putting the onus on this board that we somehow shut down a service organization by a ban being given to probate court was not, and we kind of went above and beyond even our last discussion, so. But even before I had spoke to Mr. Reeves, he was already on the phone and had conference calls and had already heard numerous comments about, did you hear this, did you hear that? So he was already putting something together before I had even talked to him, so.
Yeah, and sorry.
Go ahead.
Something I'll reiterate to both the public and to the commissioners, and you've heard me say this before, but I operate under 6 principles. Is it illegal, unethical, or immoral? If it's one of those 3, we're not doing it. Don't care. Committee can hire somebody else. If it goes, or if it follows federal law, state law, local policy procedure, or county policy, if it goes against any of those, we're not doing it. So my financials are open to the public because they're public record. I will entertain any and all discussions about veterans, veteran care, veteran transportation, veteran treatment, whatever it is you want. If you have a concern, come talk to me and get to the ground truth. I will take personality and an emotion out of every equation, because then you can talk with the facts. And I work that way and have for years. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
And I'll say in closing that I think I would put, Mr. Reeves might not, because he's more modest, but I believe I would put our Veteran Affairs Office up against any other of the 82 counties here, and that we are in the top category when it comes to veterans being served and the things we're doing up there, and the new things we're doing, the new programming. So I would say we're in the upper top 5, top 10, probably top 5, I would say, here in the rest of the counties. So, and we're probably operating with less in some cases, so. But, all right, we will move on to the rest of our committee reports, and I'll start with Commissioner Holzhausen, if you have anything to add from your committees.
No, I think everything is good. I'm on the 911 board, and the phone's ringing off the hook over there, so whenever it's needed. And I'm on the Shiawassee Economic Board, and things are moving along over there. And I'm also on the Senior Citizen Board, and things are going good. And I'm on the Health and Wellness Board, and there's a little concerns over there. The state kind of like to privatize some of that, so that's a big concern. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Commissioner Palmer?
GST Region 5 didn't meet this month. Dan and I serve on that, so we didn't have that to go to. The I-69 corridor did not meet this month. They didn't have a quorum, but they really didn't have much to do. We'll meet again. We'll meet next month, hopefully with a quorum. Also, I'm going to Shiawassee County Road Commission. Bids for blacktopping and seal coating and chip making and chip putting down and everything. All the bids, there was a stack of contractors about this thick. And they read off all the bids on roads and everything, and what I'll have next time is a list of who won those awards based on bidding for roads in the townships and so on and so forth. But a couple of things stood out, and again, blacktop by the ton is going up. It's gone up now for the 4th year in a row, and it's taken quite a jump. There's a little consternation, but anyway, there's a lot of talk out there. If the governor's $1 billion road project gets started, there really isn't enough people to do the work for that bonding issue and the road work that would be needed next summer. Might keep in mind that bonding, that money is not coming to any of the county localities. That will be used in high traffic areas, mostly around Detroit. Also, we have 3 bridges slated for repair. The estimated cost for those 3 bridges by the state was $432,000. The bids came in at $712,000 for those 3 bridges. They'll be rebid in May. There was only one bidder. And again, with anticipation of all the work that's going to have to be done this next summer, several bidders did not bid on local bridge work. And again, what all this does is drive the price up. So, even though more money has been coming the last 3 years and the coming 4th year on road tax, what the legislature put in 4 years ago, it's getting eaten up quick by higher cost, and a lot of those costs have been perpetrated by the state trying to enter in and do more roads. I mean, that's nice, but there's not enough people or equipment to go around, and that could really short counties, and so that's not a good idea. So anyway, that was part of that, a lot of discussion. Road monies, in 2021, it's approximately $10 million coming from MDOT. Last year it was about 9.4, $10 million this year, might be a little more than that. And they're expecting in 2022, $10.5 million. And again, those are very conservative figures. In the last couple of years, we did receive more money than what was originally allocated. So that's road commission's right on. They got a lot of stuff done. They've been trimming up until now. The snow came back, so they're not trimming anymore. But they're ready to go this spring on road. The gravel bids. One company, it's a Shiawassee County company, I think probably will get all the work because their bids were the best. So they're hopefully they can answer. Today, and we'll be meeting out here from Owasso and a gentleman that handles those types of projects, and it was very informative. So we'll be talking more about that in the future. Also, I'll let Jeremy talk a little bit. We've had pension and retirement discussions with Nationwide and MERS and so on and so forth. And those are ongoing, and we're meeting again next week. And we're going to be meeting next week on health insurance, which is like your Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're going to be meeting on that, so on and so forth. Other than that, it hasn't been busy. Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, it's been real busy. I think I might have missed something, but I have to might have to come back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Webster?
Dan, Commissioner McMaster and I are heading up the technology committee. I'm gonna let him give most of the report. The piece I've been working on is communicating with Kevin Tomlinson from the RESD about sound in this room. So not only would sound help improve the video issue, which we kind of concluded we probably don't need to change video, but need to improve sound on the video. The other issue is that we are not ADA compliant, so we need to have hearing devices available for the hearing impaired at our meetings, which would require us to use microphones. So Kevin said that he would recommend that we have the same company that provides sound in our courtrooms come and evaluate this room and see what we can do in terms of a system here that would make us compliant with ADA devices. I'm on the VAAA board, Valley Area Agency on Aging, and Senior Power Day is coming up in May. It's a day that senior citizens, about 2,000 to 3,000 senior citizens from Genesee, Shiawassee, and Lapeer, all go to Huckleberry Railroad Crossroads Village, and they provide all kinds of services that day. All kinds of vendors are there, so I'm looking for people who are willing to be sponsors of that event. Changing how they fund the event. It used to be through raffle ticket sales, which was a big pain. And so now we're going to do individual sponsors. So businesses or anybody who does anything related to seniors could donate $600 and have a free table at the event. So I'll be giving you more updates about that as we get closer, but it's a pretty big deal. Lots of lawmakers go to it to meet the seniors, and it's a good opportunity to connect with them. So.
Thank you. Commissioner McMaster?
For all my committees, I'm just going to comment on two of them. First one is the GLS, Regional Planning Commission, the Genesee Lapeer Shiawassee Planning Commission. In front of you is this road survey study for our region. It was just Lapeer, Shiawassee County that was done. It's a joint effort. The Road Commission is on it. It's kind of an analysis of going back the last 5 years, looking at our federal roads, our state-funded roads, our local roads, conditions, where we're at, and then obviously it's ranked among the state. So we are in the bottom 5th of all 83 counties in terms of progress, quality, and everything. And maybe we have somebody from Road Commission come at our next meeting and maybe talk more detail. But I want everyone to have this. You can look it up. There's a map. The core part starts on page 7, and they break it down on how the roads are funded, what's the federal aid road, what's the local roads. There's a map that shows how the roads are funded. Unfortunately, the 3 colors that are used to show the different types of roads is also the same 3 colors that they show for the radius. So it gets a little confusing, but it does show we're making progress in our county on some roads we're not. I would like to talk to the Road Commission because, like one of these says that we're just kind of, it's a fair road, but like the Judgeville Road, that's been paved from one end to the other, and I don't know why it's a higher rating, but I guess you guys want, yes?
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Yeah.
We don't either.
Okay, so.
Yeah, but I will have them come, and they should have our maps ready to show all our 6-year programs, which we've done 3 years, but we got three, and they try to jump and do some more, but.
Well, maybe
yeah.
March or April, but it's
Yeah.
just it's interesting, and then Lapeer is
demographically and size and everything, they're not that too far from us. And we're not ranked that far from them, but we are clearly at the bottom fifth. And then to make another comment that reinforces what Mr. Plowman said, when you look at the governor's, the first road tax proposal, funding, the only roads that we were even eligible to receive funding for, if that had passed, and of course that fell apart, were roads that we had already done. Bennington Road, I think Green River Road, Juddville Road. And then this new bonding, the new bonding plan, Mr. Plowman is correct, it's not for us. It's not for our county.
No.
It should be for all 83 counties, but it isn't focused. So, if you guys want to take that home and read that. Following up on what Commissioner Webster said, we have this ad hoc technology committee. We met the other day, we're meeting again in another couple weeks. Real quick, I'll run through the different topics. The first one, our mail system, which we just completed, kind of a round robin review of all the different departments yesterday. So we have somebody doing an analysis on the volume of mail that's done, who has what kind of equipment, where it goes, goes to a mail house, should more of it go to mail house, some of it goes straight to the post office, et cetera, et cetera. Probably looking at March or April, I'll have an outside group that's going to come in and give a presentation. So we're moving on that. Second issue, we've talked for many months about buildings and grounds and the work ticket order operation request system, similar to what we do with RESD for our computers. We're working on that. A couple of us had Commissioner Holzhausen and I and Tim and Kevin Tomlinson and Mike met today. We're moving on that. Another item for technology is trying to figure out, and I know it seems like we're beating a dead horse on this, but who's running what kind of credit card machines? Who is doing point and pay? Who's doing G2G? Who's doing nothing because their equipment's not hooked up? What issues there are with different databases and with BSNA. So working on that, and Commissioner Webster and I are going to kind of go around. We're going to split up the list, and we're going to go talk to every department, similar to what I did with the mail system, to find out, okay, what are you using? Is it working? What are your problems? What could be better? Et cetera, et cetera. And then the goal of that is kind of, we have like 4 points. One, so all the offices can have some kind of a credit card machine. Stop the nickel and diming we're receiving on fees. Possibly, not necessarily make money, but have some money, like G2G offers some money rebate that comes back to offset costs. And then also the most important one is make sure that whatever systems we're using is plugged in with our accounting and everything works with BSNA, so makes life a lot easier on us when it comes to looking at money going out, money going in, different departments, volume, all that stuff, and that makes it obviously easier on Tracy doing a bunch of stuff. Other items, Commissioner Webster talked about sound and video, she's handling that. We discussed the website. I know we're ADA compliant, but there's some conversations, maybe some improvements that we need to make. We talked about computer equipment, when it gets outdated, is it really obsolete? Does it get rotated maybe into other offices that could use it? We talked about backing up or annexing, logging court files, old documents, getting them scanned in or figure out what we're going to do. We talked about all offices having scanners, some have scanners, some don't. And the last one seems really insignificant, but it's something that I know our constituents deal with every day, and that's the Google pinning of all our different buildings on Google Maps. So for instance, you can look up animal control, and there's going to be a Google pin, the little red dot looks like a blood drop, that's going to show down at the drain office. So you have people showing up down at work release or buildings or grounds at the drain office with rabid cats or rabid bat or whatever looking for animal control. So, and Jackie is aware of this, we had this conversation in leadership yesterday. Part of this is just going through, and even though it's not our system, it's not our software, we just need to make sure that all of our Google pins are in the right spot, because we've had a lot of shuffling of offices in the last year, but especially in the last 4 or 5 years, and everything's not updated. So that's just some of the stuff with Technology Committee, and I've spoken way too long, so I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Appreciate it, all good information. Commissioner Marks.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit on the Public Health Board, and I can let you talk about Rex Pierce. You knew better than I did, so that's all I have.
Commissioner Garber?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. All right, I will save my report till the end of the meeting. We'll go right into our Economic and Fiscal Development Committee report. Commissioner Plowman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A, I move to adopt resolution number 20-02-02, authorizing the county zoning administrator or planning commission to assess and escrow fees from applicants for paying the professional review expense of engineers, community planners, and other professionals deemed necessary for review of permit applications, proposed site plans, and other applicant requests.
All right, we have a motion.
Support?
We have a support. We have discussion.
I got a question. Is this something we already do, like, have done in the past? Is this new?
This,
I believe this is new,
Yeah.
well, the,
or updated at least.
the zoning ordinance permits this to be done, but the board still needs to authorize, and what they want to do is, in some cases where they need like an engineer or electricians or something to review something, or review site plans and things like that. These are professional people that they gotta pay fees to. They wanna be able to charge that upfront. They put the money in escrow and then pay it out as needed. If some of it's not needed, it gets returned to the applicant. But, otherwise you're left trying to collect it afterwards.
Okay, and is this
That's all. It just
other
allows.
counties do pretty regularly?
I believe they do. I haven't checked that, but according to Mr. Preston, the zoning ordinance already permits it. It just needs authority to set up an escrow account and do those things.
How come we haven't done this before?
I don't know.
Just not something we've ever thought on. So this is not like a new burden or tax or anything like that on anybody? Because my main thing is I don't want this to be a fee that people aren't paying now that we're now adding on that may discourage growth in this county.
There's already permit fees, they
Right, so is this in
Apply.
addition to that, right?
It could be, but the zoning ordinance already permits it to be done. It's just that you don't really know ahead of time, then you do it, then you want to, in other words, it tends to get borne by the taxpayers instead of a developer who's developing a site plan. And this transfers it to the applicant, not the taxpayers in general.
Do developers have a habit of not paying what they're charged after the fact?
I don't know, you'd have to ask Mr. Preston.
So this is just a matter of whether they pay before or after?
It's escrowing the application in anticipation of these costs so that they can, the zoning board can then go out, or the planning commission, be it who it is, or the zoning administrator, has the money there and doesn't have to go ask them. Go contact the applicant again, say, now we need more money, this kind of thing. And wait for that when they're trying to retain these professionals.
And
Is
it
there a-
prevents us having those professionals on payroll all the time. So we can,
Is there a possibility that this could discourage any small growth in this kind? Obviously, big companies are gonna come and this doesn't matter to them. But like maybe someone wants to set up some sort of small pet shop or whatever, pet grooming. Could this discourage someone from building that maybe doesn't have?
I don't think it would unless
I
they
hate
were
to
looking to
speculate.
get around
Yeah.
the fees.
Yeah, I hate to
If it was a company
speculate,
trying to-
but
yeah, if it was a company
nevertheless,
trying to
if
get around
there is cost, if there's not cost, then even if there's escrow money, it gets returned to them.
They
And
get
if
the
there is,
money.
then otherwise
Pretty sure
the
all-
taxpayers pay for it.
Pete alluded to this during conversations, solar field out here. New thing, how much inspection are we gonna be doing out there? As a county, we could have said, well, for inspection fees, we need to have you put in escrow $100,000.
Right.
Well, they've done a lot of work, and so what the solar people said, why don't you just bill us every time that you inspect, which you do, and we're gonna pay you at the end of the month. And they had. But we could say, Well, because we have a system for escrow, we could have just said, well, why don't you just pay us $100,000 up front, and we'll take it out of there until it's, if there's any left over, we'll give it back. But of course, if the building project lasts a year, that's a lot of money for them to put up.
That's what I'm worried
Yes.
about. I don't wanna discourage someone from putting jobs here.
Right.
Because we're worried about who
Yeah.
pays when.
So,
That's-
but
that's
most,
the other one.
Well,
most,
it might be a convenience thing too, I would think,
Yeah.
if I give them the money up front, then I'm not halting what I'm doing, running back up to the building department, making sure I'm getting the proper permit, and then and then another inspection comes out, and and then I'm told, oh, well, did you get this? And then I gotta run back to the, so then I'm halting my crews or whatever I'm doing. So I mean, I understand what you're saying, I mean, there could be
It's
a
like a
little bit,
double-edged
there
sword.
could be a little bit of that, but I think if you're in here and I would say more probably are thinking this way, it's less headache for me, I can just, if I have to. Are we still offering the option to, if I wanna come in and I wanna pay what I wanna pay, I can? Or is everything now going to just be, I have to escrow account everything I do?
let me,
I think you'll find it done on a case-by-case basis,
Oh,
deciding on the
yes.
case. But so a smaller application like you're talking about, it's not gonna have $100,000 fees.
Right.
But if you end up hiring a professional and then say ultimately you deny the permit, you're probably not getting your fees back that you paid out, the taxpayers are paying for it. Or if you approve it with conditions, but the conditions are such that the applicant doesn't want to continue with the project, again, you might not get those fees. And the taxpayer has more. That's what it comes down to. But I mean, you could always amend the zoning ordinance to not permit it, but right now it is in the zoning ordinance, at least according to this one.
There we go. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner McMaster,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Item B, I move to adopt resolution number 20-02-01 to reduce the number of members on the Shiawassee County Construction Board of Appeals to 3 members instead of the current 7 members.
Motion and support, Commissioner Garber. Discussion? Do a roll call on that.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Item C, I move to approve the discharge of a rehabilitation mortgage dated August 26, 2016, executed by Laisel and Barbara Orser of 1025 South Washington Street, Owasso, and authorize the board chair and county clerk to execute the document.
Do a motion?
Support.
Support, Commissioner Garber. Discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Item D, I move to approve the minutes of February 10th, 2020, Economic and Physical Development Committee meeting.
Motion and support, Commissioner Webster. Discussion on the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Those minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes Economic and Physical Development Committee.
All right, you're up. Finance and Administration.
Okay. Item A, under Finance and Administrative Committee, I move to authorize the Clerk's Vital Records Office to hire a part-time employee to 24 hours per week, starting at $14.77 per hour, grade 3, step 1, to be paid from the CPL revenue funds, line item 263-215-703.
Support?
We have a motion and a support. Discussion. Do we have any discussion on this? I would ask, is this going to be a representative position in the union?
Well, the AFSCME contract does cover part-time, and it does, Mike and I talked about this at length. And that one of the things it says is that a part-time employee's hours aren't necessarily set. So what else did you, and that the benefit, there's no benefits under, up to the 24 hours, because we were talking about those hours.
So there'll be no benefits, but there's prorated retirement, correct?
There is, no, there's no retirement. There is,
So this position will not be entering
it'll be
into
pro,
our defined benefit,
no,
because that would be my goal, is that this position does
You know-
not enter into the defined benefit.
it seemed, I told you it wouldn't, right?
You said no, but it would be,
That-
it
that
would, it would prorate.
Yes, it would have prorated
very
vacation
slowly
and-
on vacation. and
Vacation, sick time, yeah, prorated vacation, sick. But I mean, it is not in the,
No, but,
So it will not go into defined
no,
benefit.
right.
Okay,
Into MERS.
Mr. Chair, so I have a question on that. So right now it's not going in,
Mhm.
and I get, so what happens if somebody works here for 3 years and they accumulate those hours? And then they goes to another office or they get bumped up to full-time? That service time does not count towards defined benefit, or does it?
No, that would not, because that's based on wages anyway accrued in the plan. And they wouldn't have been in the plan, so no.
Okay.
And are we holding firm at 24 hours?
That's up to discussion with Mike, is that you, because of the no benefits.
Right, and immediately get benefits if we don't.
And, I mean, my hope is to find like maybe a part-time stay-at-home mom or someone who's retired that still has a lot of life, that doesn't, I mean,
Well, my thought is this position probably over time, I'm sure will evolve into full-time, I would imagine. I mean, that would probably be the goal, right? And eventually.
I don't know.
So I
mean,
think, but my biggest concern still remains, even when it goes full-time, that this position not be part of the defined benefit.
In a conversation with Commissioner Martin, we had talked, because of the way the three of us in that office are well organized. And we do work very well together, but it's the, someone gets sick, the lack of vacation, the busyness of the office that we, because I said, do I need to go after her full-time? And we've kind of had that conversation, and we don't know that we ever, I mean, that we do. We would like this year to be kind of, we are being one of the craziest years we're anticipating. We'd like to kind of, I'm going to be assessing that very carefully. And then next year, because it will be an off year, like I said, when we have 149 CPL people walk in, and that's one function within a month, during an even year, what is going into the year with more filings of people walking into file? In 2018, we had over 100 people that had to do filings in our office for elected positions and what have you. That's kind of what we're looking at.
In answer to your question.
Well, I wonder,
Mr.
well,
Chair.
my discussion is not on clerk-specific positions in the defined benefit. My discussion will be every position that comes before this board the remainder of the year. My concern will continue to be them entering into our defined benefit, because the goal and the work of our committee is to close that door rather soon, to be honest, before we may even have a 401k or 401a or 457 option completely available yet. Our goal is that door be closed. We're already set on a 20-year or 30-year plan to pay what we have existing off right now. But as we continue to funnel more in, while we're trying to come up with plans, we're going to keep getting bigger again. So the goal was to just, to turn that slow drip off and be done. So that's, I mean, this isn't just a clerk-specific position that I'm wondering on retirement. That's going to be my question for all positions moving forward. And I understand we have negotiations with bargaining units that we'll have to discuss that with. But,
In answer to your question, if the job went full-time, it would be in the pension system. I mean, that's,
you know,
but that's under, both. That's not just under their contract, that's under,
Mr. Chair.
but yeah.
yes.
So, and then I'm assuming, and I'm assuming the clerk is well aware of this, then if the need is to go to full-time, she will come before the board, say, okay, this, and those, sounds like common sense here, but we do have these concerns with the MERS system. And I'm assuming that at the point that she realizes that maybe this person needs to go full-time, she comes to the board way before that position is made.
Yeah.
Or that person starts working full-time.
Yeah.
And hopefully we would have enough.
Oh, absolutely.
And, but hopefully also we have enough time. I mean, we may be in a sticky we're under the gun to get some of this stuff done.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that you would come with enough more than a week's notice saying, you know, like, so, hey, things are good, or, you know, or hey, maybe 2-3 months I might be looking at, maybe we need to revisit this or whatever. But I know we've had direct dialogue and conversation, and you're here every month. But I'm assuming that, but I know what the chairman's trying to say, and it's,
Yeah.
and we're not picking on the clerk, but we're trying to get everything under control here.
We're meeting again next week with, talking about the, you know, health insurance, pensions again. And then on March 10th, the two groups that we'll have in that will compete against each other for the 401A with the 57B will give us their final spiel as to why we should go either with either one of them. And then we'll formulate with our committee a recommendation back to the Board of Commissioners that we might have ready for March. So we don't really want to have a lot of employment between now and March meeting. So,
Mr. Chairman, if you would indulge us, I'm getting the ASME contract, and I can double check that if the board is willing to come back to this question. And I'll double check on that. I want to make sure, I'm pretty sure their contract, because under the personnel policy, this person would be in 24 hours.
Yeah.
But I think it's their contract that says it wouldn't.
You can find it.
Yes.
I believe it's the, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to come back to it, I'd appreciate it. I'll be able to give you an answer. She's getting it.
okay. With that, I would withdraw my motion.
Table.
Table it. Oh, let's table it.
Well, it's not, we'll just withdraw the motion until we.
Yeah. Yes, a second. Who's second? A second. Yeah.
Commissioner
Okay.
Webster.
We'll withdraw it, and then I will, because my next one is approve the minutes, but I can just wait if we want a public safety, of course.
Commissioner McMaster, you're up.
Mr. Chair, item A, move to authorize the Youth Detention Center to hire a youth service specialist starting at $15.39 per hour. Youth services salary grade 2, step 1, to fill a vacancy.
Support. Have a motion and support, discussion. Is this a part-time individual? Is this full-time?
This one's full-time. He has a full-time vacancy there he's had since January.
I didn't realize we had full-time people. I thought they were all part-time by him.
There's this is a full-time one, and then there's a full-time supervisory one position. He has a mix of full-time and part-time people.
I didn't realize that.
He had a previous full-time that went down to part-time, when part-time became available, and now he has.
Roll call vote?
Commissioner Webster,
Yes?
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster,
No?
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Am I allowed to ask a question before I vote?
Well, normally.
Yes, Chairman, you can ask.
You're the chairman.
Do whatever you like, Chair.
Is this a probate?
The youth detention
Are they in the probate
center is, I guess technically, under the, but it's kind of independently run by Walt Knickerbocker, who's a probate court employee. He's in the bargaining union, probate court employees association. He's actually the highest paid employee that's in the bargaining union.
Okay.
It's my understanding that yes, and it's a real kind of tricky situation, but this does fall under Sarah Edwards
Okay.
as court administrator.
All right. My vote, no.
That's a no.
No. That motion passes.
All right, item B. Who,
No, next meeting.
Master?
Okay, item B. Move to approve the fiscal year 2019-2020 grant contract with the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission, MIDC, for the Public Defender's Office. Total authorized budget of $945,865.40. State contribution $839,784, and local share $106,082 for 10/1, 2019 to 9/30/2020. This is special revenue fund. Line item 287-00-569.010.
support?
We have a motion motion and support Commissioner Plowman. Discussion on this. Fund our public defender's office. Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster.
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
No.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
Item C, I move to approve minutes of February 11th, 2020 Public Safety and Courts Committee meeting.
Motion and support, Commissioner Holzhausen. Discussion on the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion's approved.
That completes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McMaster. Okay, he's not ready yet. We will go to Health and Human Services. Commissioner Garber.
All right. I would move to authorize the health department to hire a secretary, grade 2, at salary grade 2, $28,579 to $34,944 to fill a vacancy.
Support.
Motion, support, discussion. This position, I believe, is on the bubble right now. I don't know if our health director's gonna have some shortfalls in Medicaid or Medicaid funding, so we're gonna approve this position to hire, but I don't know that it will be filled. I just wanted the board to know, because they're gonna look to try to cut some things back if they're losing a large chunk of Medicaid funding. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner McMaster,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
All right, I would move that we authorize the Veterans Affairs Office to hire an administrative assistant, Veteran Services Coordinator, AFSCME salary grade 3 of $30,722 to $37,565 to fill a vacancy.
We have a motion,
Second.
a second from Commissioner Marks. Discussion on this? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Garber,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Plowman,
Yes.
Commissioner Webster,
Yes.
Commissioner Holzhausen,
Yes.
Commissioner McMaster,
Yes.
Chairman Root.
Yes.
I would move that we approve the minutes of February 11th, 2020 Health and Human Services Committee meeting.
A motion and support on the minutes. Any discussion, corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion's approved.
That concludes my report.
All right, we'll go to committee of the whole. Commissioner Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve the minutes of the February 12th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Support.
Motion and support from Commissioner Holzhausen. Discussion on those minutes. Any corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Those minutes are approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks.
They, I believe the individual would be in the pension.
The 24-hour person would be in the pension.
Yes, I mean, it's based on wages, so it's
What about-
just multiplication of their wages. I could look at it further in some other clause, but the pension clause does seem to just say employees. Now, somewhere else it may say full-time employees, and I seem to recall that, but the reading of the pension clause says employees. So they would come under the,
C1.
actually, this needs to be B2.
P2.
But that said, it seems to me, I had looked at it, and they had a provision in an earlier one that said part-time ones did not get it. But right now, just a cursory reading says they do.
So I'd like to make a motion to table this then until March. We need to contact ASME to find out for clarity.
Well, we can research it here in the contract, but it just take me a little more time than we have tonight. So.
We were bouncing back between the contract and the policy.
I think tabling, I think tabling it to March would probably be fair.
We have a motion to table.
I'll make, yeah, it's mine, finance.
A second to Dan's motion to table. Commissioner Plowman will second that. All right.
March.
All right, that works.
Ask for the vote.
All those in favor, tabling this till March? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I,
One, no.
6-1. Item B, item B again. Item approve the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 Finance Administration Committee.
We have a motion? Support. Support, Commissioner Garber. Discussion on the minutes, corrections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same. That motion carries. Commissioner Plowman, at this time we'll go to any other agenda item if the board has anything to bring forward.
Yeah, I'll just say, I
Discussion.
didn't know if you were gonna talk about it, but I'll mention, former finance director from our health department, Rex Pierce, passed away 2 days ago. So, for those of you who knew him, good gentleman, he'll be missed.
Yep. Thank you. Anything else? Anyone else have any? All right, we'll go into the chairman's report. Like Commissioner Plowman said, we have had our meetings, our ad hoc committee meetings on investments, pensions. We've met with Michigan class. Our treasurer, Julie Sorensen, has been up on that. She has that set up. She's got her new ID. She's got everything going. I think she's starting, or going to be starting, working with some of our larger accounts. I know the register's one, the drain office, the health department, who have the bigger accounts that are looking to get a little bit more off of their money. She's going to be working with them. They're going to send it over there. She's going to take care of that. But those discussions have gone well as far as what we can do. She's going to look into our delinquent tax as well, maybe get a little bit off of that, a little bit more return on our money, so that we can start gaining a little bit more, and it'll help things down the road. It'll help, I know, as we talk about pensions and we talk about moving away from the defined benefit, moving into a 401A or a 457 or the defined contribution. These investment things are going to tie into that, into the sense that though we offer a lesser, pension per se, more in your pocketbook today. Maybe not the greatest pension at the end of the day. It's still going to be good. It's still a pension. It's still an option. But these investments here are going to keep up with. So you might lose that little bit of a perk that you came to Shiawassee County because, man, we got a defined benefit, it's a great pension, and that's what I want. That's what I like. I'll take lesser wages to be at a job that I know I could go 2 or 3 other counties over and make $10,000, $15,000 more. But I want to stay home. I want to be close to home. Less driving. So what this investments tie in is that as we make more money off our delinquent tax, as we make more money in certain areas, that we can then keep up with our cost of living. We can keep up with inflation as it goes up, so that our salaries can increase, so that maybe we offer a little more competitive wage than where we would have been at when now we're also offering a defined benefit. It's hard to offer that large wage with the very top pension. So now as the pension may drops back to a more defined contribution role, which is the goal, close the door to defined benefit and go into the defined contribution. No one that has a defined benefit will lose it. No one's being forced out of it. They will have it. As I said, we're already on a plan to pay off what we have existing currently right now anyways. So there won't even be that lack of funding when we close that door and new hires aren't in it. You won't be losing that. The question comes up, well, when you close that door and there's no one else paying into it, what are you going to do then? Well, we are on a fixed payment plan to pay off what we currently have. So that won't be a problem. So investments, pensions, it's all kind of rolling together. The more money we can make off of our money, the further it can go, the more we can maybe push those salaries up. We did a wage study. We certainly don't want to be at year 20 with the wage study like we were before and have to say it's been 20 years and we haven't done any cost of living, we haven't done anything, and we've wasted our money on a wage study that's now outdated by 20 years. What we want to do is keep that wage study that we have and further it every year with some sort of cost of living, some sort of percentage based, and we'll look at it. And I think our goal, Commissioner Plowman, Chairman of Finance, our goal is to look at this, start looking at it in June. Start having these discussions in June each year not have them in December, not have them when we're in crunch time with the budget. Oh gosh, well, we're looking at COLA, but that's gone now because we're in a panic on what's it gonna look like. So we're gonna start having those conversations a lot sooner. And I think just on the returns, I don't know exactly what the returns were, but when we seen them, you know, $1 million, was it like 1.82, or what was it at?
1.82% on investment.
And they were making, around 28 or, you know.
The road commission made around 30,000 with that. With our funds and our depositories and the money that we handle, that could have been upwards to 300 plus thousand a year.
And those are things that we can, I mean, I see if we do investments right now and we start making that kind of money, at the rate we're going right now with a defined benefit, we're gonna be throwing all of that into retirement costs. Because retirement costs will continue to rise, as they have been. And, I mean, that's just a fact. So, I mean, as far as we make more, we can offer more in a salary, lower to a defined contribution. I mean, that is the goal. So I don't want anyone in the county to be surprised when we present that the defined benefit will be closing. We do have members of the county involved. It's not just the commissioners sitting. We do have a lot of people involved. We've had a lot of good discussions. Commissioner Plumman said Nationwide and MERS are the front runners right now. Kind of MERS offers a defined contribution. They're a little more limited, I think, as far as
investment opportunities go.
Yes. Nationwide was definitely a lot better, and Nationwide was the one that MERS deals with the funds that they have themselves. They deal with and operate in.
Like 401.
Yeah, where Nationwide they might have 10 different funds, and if they notice that 4 of those funds are dogs, they're just not doing it. They're going to take them out and put new ones in. Where MERS is they're going to be stuck with the funds that they have, and those are not going to change. So if they do well, they do well.
You'll say Nationwide was more flexible.
Yeah. So, but we'll have more discussions on that next month.
Yeah. I'll just make one comment. The thrust of all this is that in a budget year, when we expense everything, including our retirement, there won't be a legacy cost involved with the retirement system. So 30 years down the road, a commissioner body like ours is faced with horrendous bills that they can't pay. Also too is that presently our MERS contribution is approximately 25% of our budget. Next year it would be 29-30% of our budget, so on and so forth. So the quicker that we end defined benefit, the quicker we can pay it off.
Well, the quicker we can not be sitting here nickel and diming over whether the clerk can have a full-time or part-time employee. I mean, we can be looking at, like I tried to say,
Cost of living increases.
Well, we can be looking at cost of living. We can be looking at saying, what can your department add this year? What do you need to do this year? Instead of every department every year having to go, what am I going to lose this year? Are my people at least going to have a job come the new year? We don't have to do, we keep doing this. And unfortunately, we've got Pleasantview, we've got the road commission, we've got entities in the county that have already been doing this. And maybe not in the last 2 years, they started doing 3 years. But it's like, we're always the last person of the party, I think. So it's our turn, it's our time, and we have some Pleasantview people and road commission members involved that are showing us what they did and showing us how they did it. So those have been good assets and a lot of good information. So that's kind of, next week we have our first meeting on the health insurance and the personnel policy. We will be looking, as I said, to redo the personnel, not redo, I guess I should say redo it, but update it is probably the best term. Uniform it so that it's black and white in every building across the board, everybody, and then obviously our goal will be to bargain that into our union agreements. We want our union agreements to be on the same page as our non-reps, and as far as it comes to personnel policy, and that'll be our goal with that. Health insurance, we know that went up. We don't know that we'll get out from under Blue Cross or Blue Cross is ever going anywhere, but if there may be some options that we can have out there that are, a single person might not need the plan offered from Blue Cross. Maybe they have a better option at a different provider or a lesser yeah, I don't know, but we're gonna have some vendors in and we're gonna have those discussions and we'll have more on that at our March meeting, but, I think, unless I'm missing anything, I think that's about it. I've talked enough, I think, but, I think everybody's been doing a good job in their roles. Commissioner Webster and McMaster are really going after the technology, so that's a good thing that we need to get going. We do need that uniformed. The point and pay system is still something that boggles my mind that it isn't up and running, but, some people just have them sitting in the windowsill. So we're hopefully we can get stuff going and figure that out, but, that is all I have, unless anybody has anything. If not, we'll go into the second opportunity for the public to address the board. I have no slips again, but there is 3 minutes per speaker if anyone has anything to say. Anything.
Jeez, that doesn't happen often.
There you go, we heard him, yeah.
I'm gonna sing a lullaby to that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, if no one has anything, then we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you for attending.
Pardon me.